Hello, hello. It is Friday, February 12th, and this is your stimulus Q&A and update. I am Jamie Trull, financial literacy coach and profit strategist, also a CPA, here to answer your questions today and give you an update on what's going on with our government stimulus program. So this is where you can come and ask me questions about PPP, EIDL, our employee retention tax credit, right? All the things, unemployment, what questions you have about what's going on right now. We specifically talk to business owners generally, or side hustlers or entrepreneurs, and things that are relevant to you. So good morning, good morning. Tell me, I don't know why I'm saying morning, it's afternoon. It's 1:30 in the afternoon for me. I'm live every Friday doing one of these Q&As at 1:30 Central Time. So if you're watching this on replay, make sure to join us next Friday for a live Q&A if you want to get your questions answered. So yeah, okay, I see Marissa, I see Stephanie. Tell me hi when you are here, and we will get started. Hey, Mark. Okay, so I will tell you the stimulus negotiations are ongoing. There's likely to be another stimulus that will be passed. Right now, the Democrats appear that they're going to go forward without Republican support for the bill. It's a $1.9 billion bill, but there are still things that could get in the way. So I would not take anything to the bank just yet, but I'll talk about sort of what is likely to be in there. So it does look like there will be another stimulus check, more than likely $1,400. It looks like it's generally the same rules that applied previously, at least as of right now. Now that could change, but as of right now, that's what it's looking like. There's also something interesting in there for those of you with children, where they're going to be potentially enhancing the child tax credit. And right now, the child tax credit is $2,000 per child that you get when you file your taxes. What they're looking at doing now, at least for a year, basically, is to instead up that. And for children, I think it's under 6, they would be $3,600. If you have children over or 6 and over, it would be $3,000. And they would be monthly payments instead of having to wait for your tax return. So that, I think, is an interesting idea to help defray some of the costs of childcare and things like that. But I have heard that from an estimate of time perspective, it would probably take several months to get this up and running. So if this passes, it's likely you wouldn't start receiving those monthly payments until July. And of course, like everything else that the IRS does, there would be limits on your income limits as far as whether you could get the tax credit or not. So that's just something to keep an eye on, because I think it's going to be interesting to see how that evolves. The next stimulus would also extend unemployment. So as of right now, unemployment is set to run out around March 14th, including pandemic unemployment assistance for business owners. So in this next round, it would likely get passed that it would be extended. The question is, how long is it going to take them to pass it? Because there's still things to be worked out, things that could get in the way of all of this. So we don't know what's going to happen and whether it will eventually pass. And there's still several things that they're working on within the bill. So those are just a couple things to keep your eye on, though, and that might be relevant to you. So let's start talking about, and I'm going to look through your questions. Oh, good. Stephanie got targeted EIDL advance invite finally. So they are sending out invites. They are doing it based on, I believe, the address that you put onto your application, where, depending on what you got for your EIDL advance, remember, this is the grant. This was the part of it that was based on the number of employees you had. Most people, if you had 3 employees, you got $3,000, right? Up to a max of $10,000. For people who are in low income areas that did not get that max $10,000, they are going and sending emails to you to then be able to apply for the targeted EIDL advance, which you do still have to show a reduction in gross receipts, and there are some other qualifications. But it's kind of still, what I've been saying is, like, don't call us, we'll call you. People want to find out how they apply. You don't actually actively apply until you get the email. So make sure you're watching your inbox if you believe that you're in a low income area. And there are a couple of different maps that are floating around, but the truth of the matter is there's not a map on the SBA website. And also, you kind of have to wait anyway. So I would just wait and see what comes out after, some time. If you really believe that you are in a low income area, you could give them a call potentially. But I think right now I have not heard that going well. And they're just telling people to hold tight until they've gotten out the emails. But I'm curious to see how they work with people. If there are some people that should get the email that don't, of course, that there are going to be issues and delays, and some people are going to get it and some aren't. And that's sort of the world that we've been living in. You're welcome. You're welcome. Yay. I'm glad you guys like it. So what they're talking about, it, if you don't know, is the employee retention tax credit. It is complicated, you guys. I'm just going to tell you this as someone who spent the better part of the last a week and a half diving full on into the employee retention tax credit. What it is a tax credit available to those of you who have employees, not just yourself, and they have to be actual employees, not contractors. If you've had employees and you meet certain criteria, even if you got a PPP loan, you may be eligible for a tax credit of up to $19,000 per employee. That would be $5,000 per employee for 2020 retroactively, and then up to $14,000 per employee for 2021 through June 30th. It's really big, you guys. It's really, really big. And I think a lot of people are going to miss this and not claim money that they could get. And this is something I put off learning about because it is really complicated. You do want to work with an accountant, but before you figure out whether you need to go talk to your accountant or your payroll company, you can grab my spreadsheet. It's linked above. It costs $17 now. We had an intro pricing that rolled off, but it's only $17. And I'm telling you, I'm getting messages every single day of people that are telling me that it saved them thousands and thousands of dollars to just have something to tell them, oh, I need to go talk to my payroll company, talk to my accountant about this, and if you think you qualify. There is one thing I want to tell those of you who have gotten it. There may be one change that may be coming out on it specifically related just to Q1 of 2021. Right now, it's kind of a conservative interpretation of what the IRS says, but it is looking like, and I'm waiting for the IRS to actually specifically say this on their website, but they have not updated their FAQs about ERTC yet. But I'm waiting for them to come out and just give me full-on confirmation that if you had a loss, if you were under that 80% of gross receipts in Q4 of 2020 versus Q4 of 2019, if you don't know what I'm talking about, grab the calculator, watch my video on it. But if you're under 20% there, that you automatically would qualify in Q1 as well. I think that's the case. It's not how our calculator currently has it because we took a conservative approach, but it is looking like that may be the case. It's a little bit nebulous in the guidance around that movement from 2020 to 2021. But in the research I've been doing and talking to other CPAs, we're leaning more towards, yes, that's probably true, but I would love to see it in IRS guidance before I update the calculator. If you've already gotten the calculator, or if you get it today, and I change something like that, or guidance changes and I need to update something, you will get the new one automatically. I will send it back out to everyone. So I'm making sure to keep up and watching any kind of guidance, things that are coming out, interpretations, because there are still a few things. For example, it's unclear whether owners themselves, even if you're W-2, and spouses would count. So there are a couple of things that are still a little bit up in the air. And so I'm updating for that, but you will automatically get it if you go and download the spreadsheet now. Okay, so definitely make sure that you check that because it's big, and it used to be that you could only get it if you didn't get PPP. Now you can still get it even if you got PPP. You can't double count the wages, right? But you can still get it if you didn't get PPP, and it could. And when you buy the spreadsheet, it also has a link to my YouTube video about this. It also could impact how you apply for your PPP forgiveness. Meaning, if you want to maximize the amount of wages that are available to get this tax credit on, which could change how you fill out your application for PPP forgiveness. So I'll leave it at that because I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole, but I do have a YouTube video on ERTC and the calculator that I think will be really helpful, and people have generally gotten a lot out of it. Okay. Let's see. Yes, I have seen things from Gusto. Gusto does have a way for you to go in, and different payroll providers are different. So Gusto does have a way for you to go in and claim it. The thing that complicates matters is you can do it automatically. If you never got PPP, they'll be able to help you calculate that automatically, what your tax credit should be, right? You just need to tell them which quarters you would qualify for, which again, my spreadsheet will calculate for you. And then you would be able to go in and tell them and claim those credits. However, if you got PPP, Gusto doesn't know about your PPP, right? That wasn't anything that would have hit payroll. So Gusto or any other payroll provider isn't going to know how to back that out, and they're not going to automatically do that. So that's something that I do recommend if you got PPP, working with an accountant to make sure that the calculation is done correctly, and then going and filing essentially what you would do for 2020 is file an amended 941. Again, use your payroll company or your accountant to help you. And then for Q1 and Q2 of 2021, you can actually file something called a Form 7200 if you know you're gonna qualify, and you can estimate that and get the money up front, or you can claim it on your quarterly 941s. Either way, whatever you want to do, but it's just something to really keep in mind because it can add up, I'm telling you. So COVID sick leave, this is a good question. And that's another thing that if you're calculating the employee retention tax credit, you have to subtract out anything that was paid with COVID sick leave. Your payroll company will probably automatically do that. They're not gonna let you claim wages on that, claim a credit on that, because you already claimed the FFCRA credit is what you're talking about, the COVID sick leave credit. As far as can an employee qualify for it again in 2021, so not if they used up their full 10 hours. So they can still qualify through March 31st, I believe, is the end of when you can claim the tax credit for leave you pay for COVID. The max is 10 days. So if they used 5 days last year and then they have another 5 days, then yes. But the max is kind of 10 working days or 2 weeks, basically, is the max. So if they've already used that, it doesn't start the clock over on January 1st. Also, it used to be mandatory. You had to do it. Now it's not mandatory. You don't have to do it. But I don't know why you wouldn't, because you get fully paid back. If you pay your employee, $1,000 to sit at home because they've got COVID, the government's going to give you that money back. So I don't know why you wouldn't do that. I think that's probably best practice also with your employees, and also to encourage your employees not to come in when they're sick. Okay, let's see. Sorry, I'm looking back through. Do I know if there's a deadline to apply for the EIDL advance? I don't know. If anybody who's gotten the email, let me know if it gives you a deadline at all. I'm not sure. I haven't seen one, but that doesn't mean there is not one. Let's see. I'm just looking through your questions. If an S Corp had its business shut down partially by a governor and the period was from March 18th through April 30th, can the business use wages paid for the entire second quarter, or it must be? It depends. I don't see the rest of this, but the answer of that, and this is going back to the employee retention tax credit for those who don't know, there are 2 ways you qualify. The first way, the best way to qualify, not that this is a good thing, but the way that you will get more wages covered is if you qualify because you have a gross wages decline. In 2020, it's of at least 50%. The first quarter has to be at least 50%, not gross wages, sorry, gross receipts, money coming into your business of at least 50%. That's the best way to qualify, because then it covers the whole quarter. If that doesn't apply to you and you're qualifying, again, I have in the spreadsheet I have above you guys, there's a decision tree that walks through all this. So if you don't qualify for that reason, then you could qualify because you were shut down or partially shut down. If that's the reason you qualify and you don't have the gross receipts reduction, then you can only use the wages that were paid while you were shut down or partially shut down, not the full quarter. So go definitely check out my spreadsheet, because again, those of you guys who are like, what is she talking about? The spreadsheet and the video are going to walk through all of it. There's a decision tree that you can just walk through and figure out where you fall, because this is really complicated. And so if you haven't looked at this, me talking about it is probably making you want to jump off of here and do something else. Okay, let's see. Okay. Sorry, if I missed your questions, I'm sorry. There's a lot of questions in here, so I'm just trying to look for the ones that are easiest to read. Let's see. Okay. Unfortunately, I didn't follow your good advice of keeping my EIDL loan separate tracking, and now I'm terrified that I won't be able to justify where the money went. I have $8,000 left from 22K. Do you know if they specifically ask how it was spent? They can. They absolutely can. They will do that if you are ever audited. I mean, they have basically, if you read your contract, they can come ask you for all the things, which is why I recommend tracking it. I do have a tracker, so I would go download my tracker, jamietrull.com/EIDL tracker. It's free, and you can put the information. I would go back, and it doesn't. Remember, cash is fungible. So go back and look at what you've spent money on since you got your EIDL loan. Pick the things that you know are covered under EIDL, right? Operating costs. Pick the things that are definitely covered and put them on the list of what you've spent your EIDL money on so that you have it. You're not that far behind, right? Like, it's better to do now than like 3 years from now when they come and ask you what you spent your money on. So I definitely want you to do that, because it's going to give you peace of mind and it's going to be better. It's just like when we save receipts, right? Like saving receipts for if you're ever audited for your business and you have proof of those things. The more proof you have, the better off you're going to be, and the less, I won't say trouble, because I don't think that's really the word, but the easier it's going to be on you and the less stress it's going to be. You can still go back and do that. You should have all of those expenses and know. But remember, cash is fungible. So it's not like it matters what came out of the account, like where the cash came from. Did it come from money from customers? It doesn't matter. The point is, write down what you spent the money on. Right? Write down the costs qualify for EIDL. Okay. Can 2020 PPP borrowers use the 2021 forgiveness application, and is the 2020 forgiveness application obsolete? So if you go, firstly, usually you're not going to pull down the application from the Treasury website. What really in real life happens is that the official application is taken by your bank and probably turned into some type of online portal that asks you a bunch of questions. Maybe it looks like the application, maybe it looks completely different than the application, but it ultimately is serving that it's taking the information you're putting in and populating that in the back end, right? And then that's what goes to the SBA. So your bank should have it updated. There's only one application now. There's one forgiveness application. So, well, I take that back. There's not a 2020 and a 2021, right? There's not for first, and it's the same application. It does say on that application, if it's a first draw loan, blah, blah, blah. If it's a second draw loan, blah, 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 right? So it does kind of differentiate that. So yes, the old ones are obsolete. Again, there's still 3 of those. There's the S, the EZ, and then the full form application. So you'll want to make sure you know. Now, usually you don't even need to know, because again, you're going to go into your bank and your bank's going to figure out which one you need to use. But yes, it is the same for both years right now. Let's see. We don't know how long it's going to take. I know they just started rolling out last week. So let me know if anybody has gotten one recently. I've heard of people getting them as recently as yesterday. So I think they're just still coming out. I think they're doing them in waves, because that's just easier for them probably than putting out a ton. So just make sure you're really watching. Search your inbox for SBA.gov every once in a while, just in case you might have missed it, because I don't know about you, but my inbox has, let's see, let's play the game of how many unread emails does Jamie have? 3,529 unread emails currently. It's very easy for me to miss emails. So if you've ever emailed me and not gotten a answer back, it's not you, it's me. Let's see. I'm not sure which one you're talking about, Joe. So let me know which one you're talking about, because I've talked about PPP and EIDL and ERTC, so that it's all a little bit different. Okay, let's see. I just got my email on the EIDL grant advance. Great. But you're new and you started in January 2020. From my understanding, the application asks for full 2019 numbers, which of course I don't have. Is there an automatic denial, or should I at least try to apply for the advanced grant and put zeros in the 2019 part. Does it give you anywhere? I have not seen the application, so I don't know. Does it give you anywhere? Because technically, for the EIDL, I believe you only had to be in business by the end of February. So it was mid-February, I believe, for PPP, end of February for EIDL. I might have those backwards. I don't know why they have different dates. Why not? Let's just pick different dates. But you would potentially qualify. So is there a caveat anywhere that's like for new businesses, put in this information? I'm trying to remember what they said to do on the original. And because it does ask you when you started your business. So does that not update when you put in that, does it not change anything? Again, I don't know without looking at the application. It's been a long time since I've looked through it. But you do want to put some money in somewhere because it's going to deny you. If you don't put anywhere any dollar amounts, it's going to deny you. So you can try, somebody is calling me, spam risk. That's fun. I don't know if you guys can hear this, but I can. Anyway, so I would take a look at what the questions are asking. You can also call the SBA and ask if you really want to make sure that you fill it out correctly. You can always call the SBA and ask if you get someone. They answer most of the time. You might just have to wait a little bit. Okay, let's see. For EIDL, this is where you can't see me. I'm going to go like this. For EIDL, when reading closing documents, it states that we will provide financial statements to the SBA within 3 months of the end of the fiscal year. Is this every year the loan is active or just upon their request? Also, if this is annually, having signed last week, would this start for me this year or next year? And because I'm an independent contractor, which financial statements are they looking for? Okay. As an independent contractor, I'll answer the first one first. They're probably just going to look for your P&L. A lot of independent contractors do not carry balance sheets. It's a good idea too, just in case, but likely P&L for you. As far as if it's automatic or not, I believe that they will ask you for this. Now, you guys let me know if anybody has been asked to provide that information yet. I think they're so backlogged that it may be something that in the future becomes more routine, but at this point, because of the volume, I think it has been rather haphazard. A lot of you guys who got an EIDL, you know, right, that because the application basically asked for no information, that most of you guys were asked for further information after getting the loan, right? And they're like, well, now we need this, 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 and this. To be able to file away for your loan. So I think this is one of those things too, where they'll catch up in time where they may have more of a routine procedure in the future. But I think as of right now, it's kind of an upon request situation, but you should plan to have it either way. Just have it ready in case you need it. You want to have your financial statements all the time anyway. I would probably keep a balance sheet even if you don't. That's just things you own and things you owe, right? Your assets and your liabilities, especially because EIDL. So this is actually a good kind of side point to bring up, right? A lot of you guys may have debt for the first time, and maybe you were just running a kind of a profit or loss statement, or maybe you just have an Excel spreadsheet where you're tracking your expenses. I would get more sophisticated right now because it's going to be best for you to do it. I would, even if you're using something like QuickBooks Self-Employed, you can't run a balance sheet out of QuickBooks Self-Employed. It's fully like single entry accounting. It doesn't have that functionality. You want to get an accounting system that has the ability to track your assets and your liabilities, okay? Because now you have a big liability. You've got an EIDL loan potentially, right? Or some other loan. Now you want to be able to track that. And as you pay it off, you want to actually record it the right way and get your interest expense deduction and be tracking the balance of your loan. So for those of you who don't have that system in place, now is the time to do it. So I recommend to do something like QuickBooks Online. That's my favorite one. And I'm going to put, I don't know if this is going to post. But in case that's you, this is actually a good time because we're at the beginning of the year. I always think at the beginning of the year is a good time to get a new accounting system in place because you can just bring in transactions back to January 1 from a expense perspective, but this is where I want you to go. I have a 50% deal with QuickBooks where it's 50% off for the whole year. So if you go directly to the QuickBooks website, you're only going to be able to get 50% off for 3 months or a free trial. With my link, you get 50% off for 3 months, for 50% off for an entire year plus a free trial. So I have a special deal worked out with QuickBooks. As far as which one to choose, you can start at the lower level if this is the first time getting up and running, or if you're an independent contractor. Something like Essentials or Simple Start are probably a good place to start. Don't get the self-employed version because, again, you cannot run a balance sheet with QuickBooks Self-Employed. It's not meant for that. So if you have debt, you need an accounting system that can actually track that and do it the correct way. I also think that's going to be helpful when you do, potentially get the call or the question from the SBA in the future about your loan. You can actually even in your accounting software designate, and I recommend people do this. It's great to use my spreadsheet. I think that's awesome. It's even better if you can designate, I spent this with EIDL funds somehow within your accounting system. There's a couple of different ways that you can do that, but I do recommend getting up and running on something a little bit more sophisticated if you took on any of these loans, honestly, EIDL or PPP. Let's see. I have an offer from my PPP lender for a second draw, but don't know yet if they are forgiving the first. Should I apply? Do you have reason to believe that they're not going to forgive the first? So if you have reason to believe that they're not going to forgive the first, and that would change your answer for getting a second, right? Then you could hold off. But in most cases, most people, if you followed the rules, right, and did things the way you were supposed to, hopefully you know whether or not you're going to get forgiven on the first one. So you are required to have used the first one appropriately to be able to get the second one. You have to be done with that time period as well, and have used all the money, right, that you got with the first one. But yeah, I think that's up to you. I think that's up to you and whether it would change your mind if it wasn't forgiven, right? You could still get it, but I would expect that you have a good idea whether you're going to be forgiven or not, hopefully. I believe the employee retention tax credit, Joe, is available for nonprofits and churches. Check me on it. I'm pretty sure it is. Pretty sure. It's hard to keep all the different programs straight. I do my best. This is going to be one of those things, you guys, though, when you learn something like really, really well, a year from now, I'm not going to be able to make any sense of any of this. It's going to, other things are going to fill my head, and all of this information is no longer going to exist. Thankfully, it exists in these wonderful videos that I'm making, so I can always refer back. All right, let's see. Okay, so somebody just got their email on the EIDL Advanced Grant today. So it's still very much ongoing, you guys. Yeah, it's similar terminology. Some people don't really use the terminology sole proprietor versus self-employed. A lot of self-employed, so sole proprietor could have employees technically. Self-employed usually don't, but they are the same from like a tax perspective. All right, quarters. Now we're back to ERTC, I think, right? Quarters. We're PPP. Compare one from 2019 to one in 2020 for second PPP draw. Yes. What are standard quarters in month terms? Yes, so they are the standard quarters. January, February, March, that's Q1. April, May, June, Q2. July, August, September, Q3. October, November, December, Q4. They are calendar months. You can't say, well, what about June, July, and August? Nope. It's not 3 consecutive months. It's calendar quarter. And that's true for ERTC as well. Both of them are calendar quarter. Yay! I'm so glad. Yes, definitely. And I think you were the one that asked the question, right, about the tracking your ERTC. You can still do it. You're not too late, you guys. It's never too late until the SBA guy is at your door asking to see it. It's not too late. Okay. Okay. Yes, Jamie. So deep into ERTC, amending for 2020, talked for an hour with ADP yesterday, and they couldn't advise whether an S-Corp owner could claim their own payroll. I read several things that say yes. ADP said, give it my best guess, but I might have to re-amend all 3 quarters if I'm wrong. Here's my thoughts on this. I will tell you, I've read the guidance probably 15 times, and I've talked to my other CPA friends, and different people have different opinions. I'm taking a conservative route, and I'm going to tell you, don't claim yourself. I'm just, because it says no other family members, basically. It mentions daughters and grandparents and all these other family members that you cannot take the employee retention credit for, even if they are legitimately working in your business, which is unfortunate, right? It sucks for the family businesses out there. You can't take advantage of it. But the wording around the actual owner and spouse is exceedingly difficult to interpret. And so I could read it either way depending on the day, and I have read it both ways depending on the day and the eyes that I'm using. So unless you have an accountant that's like, no, go ahead and do it. It's not in the IRS FAQs. It doesn't specifically call out, can I pay an owner? So I'm always a fan of just, unless it's going to make a really big difference. I mean, I guess it could be a decent sized tax credit. It may be something that you'd have to amend for. It's more risk if you do, I guess. Not necessarily risk of like going to jail risk, but like risk of having to pay it back risk, right? So make the decision based on, ADP is not going to advise you, right? Like your payroll companies are not going to give you advice on this. They're going to help you actually do it when you're ready to, but they're probably not going to give you advice on what to do because that's not in their purview. They're also not accountants, y'all. So it's always good to check with your specific accountant, get them to read it and see what they say. But I'm going to be conservative in my interpretation and say no. People will disagree with me, and I'm totally fine with that. Okay. Let me see. All right, Mark says, hi, Mark. Mark was on my live earlier as well in my financial fitness formula program. So our bank is finally releasing the new PPP-1 forgiveness app on Tuesday. Yay. Is the question still going to be in there with number of employees at the time of application for forgiveness, or will it be number at the end of our 8-week covered period? Remind me, Mark, which one you get to fill out. There is still a question, yes, in the application about the number of employees. I want to make people not freak out though, because even the application that's for under 50,000, they still ask you for that. And it's not because they're evaluating, like at the top of the application, it says number of employees when you got the loan, number of employees at the end, or I can't remember if it's at the end or the day you apply. I don't know. Anyway, the reason that they ask you that is not to reduce your forgiveness. The reason they're asking you that is because that information is being used to quote essentially how many jobs the PPP saved, right? It's more of it's a vanity metric more than it is anything. It's not something that's going to impact you. So I think that's frustrating. Now, for some businesses though, if you don't qualify for any of the safe harbor, then you may have to do that calculation on your FTE. So I'm not going to get into all the ins and outs of that, but if you don't qualify for the safe harbor, that's where you may have to do the comparison. Let's see. So let me see. Do the family rules for ERTC apply to C Corps, or is that only for S Corps? That's for everybody. The family rules are for everybody. Let's see. Do you need a code? Yes, you do. You just need to go to Jamie Trull. Well, you don't need a code. Just go to jamietrull.com/QuickBooks, and you will be able to it should show you the discount right there. And if you sign up via that link, you will be able to get it. Now, if you're on QuickBooks Self-Employed, you can't just upgrade. Unfortunately, it's a fully different platform. So it's a completely different platform that you're going to be using. And so you can't just, your data, it's also a little bit more difficult from a migration perspective. So, but it is a completely different platform entirely. So there are instructions out there on how, though, to move from self-employed to the next one. Okay, so my accountant just told us if we got PPP, we won't qualify for EITC. What link or info can I send him to figure out what amount we will qualify for? Okay, so that was the old rules. And a lot of CPAs are not aware that in December 27th, in that stimulus bill, it changed that rule. The reason that they're not aware of it, you guys, is because when you go even to the IRS website right now, which is what every accountant does when they're trying to check something, they go to the IRS website to see. And so they try to figure out, so they go there to try to figure out what the rules are. There's a giant box right now on all of the ERTC information that says this has not been updated for December 27th. But they're missing that, and they're saying, well, it just still says that you can't get it if you got PPP. Not true. Not true anymore. That has changed, okay? So definitely make sure that they're aware of that. I mean, there's a lot of different articles out there. So they can look at the new stimulus bill that was passed on December 27th, if they want to see the actual wording that's in the bill. That's the most formalized place to find it right now. Okay, I'm gonna run, you guys, because my children are currently knocking on the door and it's my son's 7th birthday. So I'm gonna go. I need to get a red light for outside the door because I'm not kidding. I'm absolutely gonna get one because I'm talking right now. You would think that they would realize that I'm talking and busy, but apparently that's not a thing. So I've gotta go and do the mom thing. You are absolutely right. And I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.